We're back with another episode of the Hoopers Almanac. Adam is traveling the country doing World Cup madness right now. So I brought on his brother, Austin Johnson, who is his co host for Johnson Magic. Go follow all their stuff on socials. We'll talk about that stuff as well, like his what they've been doing throughout the playoffs a little bit here too, which I've been helping with here at the top. And then Austin and I are going to cover a bunch of different things. We're doing like the 2 second touch point on the finals just because I needed the Spurs' actual reaction to it. I want to talk about just the history of small guards winning titles because I have to just, give myself a moment of being like, hey, Mitch, remember when you said this wasn't going to happen? And then I have to just like talk that back a little bit. And then we're just going to talk about a little quick of recap of this past year. Things we liked, things that we're just seeing, trends we're seeing as the decade has gone on. And we're going to get into that a little bit too. Plus a little historical fun at the end of it all. But before we get going, here are our friends from Green Top. Austin, I had several people text me last week. Is Adam okay? Just after the finals were over, and as I was the only one who did I solo potted it last week, and I had to clarify. Adam was coaching a basketball game during half of the finals, which was just the most anarchy thing that a San Antonio basketball tournament could be doing. And I just feel like we need to get like a 5 second give me your 5 second thoughts on the finals, and then we can just move past it. Because like you said, we've been oversaturated this week just with finals thoughts of the Knicks and Spurs and what everyone should do. But I just need from a Spurs fan's perspective, how it all went down or what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful to have been there. And I thought the Spurs, from a Spurs perspective, I thought we'd get the 5 or 6 seed. If we're healthy, we'll have a good regular season. And obviously they shattered that through the roof. 62 wins and pushed, the Thunder to 7 and beat them, and then got to the finals. And, I don't blame one individual like most people do. A lot of people are blaming Fox or calling out Mitch Johnson, and it's a collective thing. These team sports that we watch, it's a collective thing. And the Knicks they were so ready. My favorite takes about the finals are when people are like, look, the Knicks have been, they went second round, conference finals with Jalen Brunson. And they did everything that you kind of have to do. They took huge swings by trading for OG, Mikal, Cat, and just adding piece by piece, player by player, the perfect team. And then Mike Brown, a guy who was ready to coach 4 rounds and get the job done. So hats off to the Knicks. I really like their team. There's a lot of discourse about so many things that to me are not basketball related. And I prefer to just look at it as, look, these are 2 really good teams. The Spurs got the better of them for what felt like, 70% of the games, but that's not what matters. So you have to play 48 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 4 minutes of every game, it was like, oh my gosh, the Knicks just turn it on. And Jalen Brunson really turns it on. So they're the better team. They deserved it. I cannot wait to play them again in the regular season next year. The Spurs Knicks, just play each other twice. But maybe we'll meet in the Cup final again. Maybe we'll meet in the finals again next year. I think it's a great matchup, and I really enjoyed just kind of the back and forth basketball aspect of it. Of course, I'm upset, but if you look at the season as a whole, it was a great year. And we're back. Like, the Spurs are now a true blue contender for however long we have this core. So I'm super grateful for the experience. Playing 5 games in the finals, you got to take it for what it is.
I agree. And I think that's the right perspective of it because you pointed it out. The Knicks have had their bumps. They've had the past few years where they've just like have gone through it. And so for them to experience that, they knew what they were getting themselves into this playoffs. And then, I mean, they were the buzzsaw that no one wanted to play in the East after game 3 of the first round. And so it
Mm-hmm.
felt like they were ready to go, and this was just the Spurs' first blood at getting like this core getting into the playoffs. And so the fact that they made it, like you said, this far is feels like a win in itself. And so I don't think there can be so many snap judgments based off of 1 year for Mitch Johnson, for De'Aaron Fox, for any of the other players in the Spurs. You can't make that quick of judgments on these guys that quickly and think everything's going to change. I think what they've done is spectacular, and they should continue to build what they've been doing. And so, and all these young guys are going to continue to develop and to be something great. But I agree with you. It's not one man's fault. It's not one guy's fault. It's a collective, like, I think there's a collective energy that like they lost as these games went on. And you mentioned it, like they would play the best. They were the better team for 70% of the game. It's in the final 12 minutes that you could see the clear difference. And which brings me to what I want to talk about mostly is the guy on the Knicks who kind of dominated every clutch game. It didn't matter if it was the Spurs, the Cavs, or the Hawks. Why am I forgetting who they played in the second round right now? Hold on. Who they played in the second round?
Philly.
The Sixers. Yeah, thank you. The Sixers. Yeah, it's the team that beat my team.
It should have been the Celtics.
Should have been. I don't think it would have mattered though. It really wouldn't have mattered who they would have played. They would have still whooped us too. But my point still being, he showed up in. I have to just panned up Austin. I was wrong. I was wrong 4 years ago. I went back into the archives back when pre-Adam and when Aaron and I recorded a podcast talking about Jalen Brunson, and I had said there is no shot this guy could be better than the third best player on a title team. And boy, was I fucking wrong. And I think I looked back at history, and I know there's been several podcasts. I mean, Simmons is the biggest one. He did like the whole small point guards, emphasis on point guards being like who are small point guards that led teams to titles. I went with small guards, so 6'3" and under, shooting guard, point guard, whatever, that were the finals MVPs on teams, on these teams. And the first one is Jerry West, and I think he forgot that name, and I was really pissed off that he forgot Jerry West. And then, but that was also on a losing team, which that's also what's crazy. He was a finals MVP on a losing team. JoJo White, and then the duo in Detroit, Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, and then it's not again for another 14 years that it's Chauncey Billups, your guy Tony Parker, and then it's Steph Curry. And there are some misnomers. I mean, no offense to Tony Parker and Chauncey Billups, they don't belong on that, and JoJo White, honestly, but they don't belong on that list of like top tier guys. But still, they were played that well for that series, and they were the best guy on that team when they won. Jalen Brunson just joined that elite class of talent, and it has been spectacular to watch him do that. And I'm okay being wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I was wrong too. When they signed him from Dallas, I was like, okay, I thought it was a complete mishap from Dallas, because it's like, oh boy, if they could have two kind of slashing guards like that can create for others, like why not try to keep them together? But I was also like, I understand people being hesitant on paying that much money for what is Brunson, 6 feet tall?
6'2"
I understand
is what they've listed.
Doesn't feel like it, you know?
Nope.
Like Steph Curry is listed at 6'2" on Basketball Reference, and that feels like, okay, like on a good day he's 6'3", whatever. And he's obviously the best shooter to ever live. So, but Brunson feels like a flat 6 feet tall. And he plays, like low center of gravity and just dribbles people in circles. But yeah, I mean, it's taken 4 years to prove everyone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like he also has guys with him that also are trying to prove people wrong. I mean, look at Karl Anthony Towns, the story that he's been from number 1 pick in 2015
Mm-hmm.
to, oh, he can't do it. He can't do it in the playoffs with the Timberwolves. They got Jimmy Butler. They got Andrew Wiggins. They have this nice team around him, but he still can't get it done. And he was kind of a shell of himself. I think it was the 2018 playoffs where that was like the first big stage of Towns. And everyone kind of wrote him off as like being a number one, number two guy. And, you know, you do these things, it's really hard to win. And it's really hard to figure out like team building. That's one of my favorite parts of basketball is team building and finding fit over just talent. Mikal Bridges was kind of written off on the Knicks. Like people were like, oh, he doesn't have it. No, they gave up too much for him. And it's like, yeah, maybe in a vacuum, maybe they did give up too much for him, but he's still the right fit for this team. And OG Anunoby, you know, can he stay healthy? All this stuff. Like, do we really think he can last 4 rounds in the playoffs? So they all kind of had that, you know what? Like, fuck it. Like, we all are trying to prove everyone wrong. Let's do it collectively. And it worked. And like, hats off to them. I think it's so cool when a group of guys kind of figure out the sport together. You know, they call it, like Bill Simmons calls it, the secret, you know? I love when teams figure out the secret together and get on the same page. And we saw it in real time. After game 3 against the Hawks, we were like, wow, who is going to come out of the East? Like, this is crazy. Are they really going to lose to the Hawks in the first round and have an existential crisis for the next 3 months? But no, they just figured something out. They figured something out with their shooting, their spacing. Brunson really just leveled up as a superstar. And that stuff is fun to watch. It's fun to be proven wrong as like a society of basketball fans, the basketball community. And I don't think anybody was like, surefire, this guy's going to be the leader of a championship winning team. Even Knicks fans who are like, no, we always believed. It's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Like, I really don't think Knicks fans believed either because of what happened last year and because of what happened the year before with Brunson as the guy. You know, you lost to the Pacers straight up in the conference finals. You lost to them. They like outplayed you guys. And those are the things that you need to happen to like those stepping stones. And the Spurs, they have some stepping stones to get across. And maybe they're going to go faster than most teams because of how well they drafted. But you still have to go through those things as a group. And Brunson kind of looked like in the fifth game. I've tried to stay away from a lot of the like podcast and discourse around stuff. But to me, Brunson looked like a guy who was kind of in that weird, like cold zone in game 5, where it was like everything dropped. He didn't really care about anything but what was in between the lines. And that was really cool to watch. Obviously I was wanting the Spurs to win just to push it to 6 games, but watching him just kind of figure everything out in real time was, and that is the stuff of legends, you know, that's where legends are made, you know, is those clinching finals games. Those are the ones people remember, you know, when Giannis dropped 50 in game 6, it was like, oh my gosh, is this one of the best forwards of all time? And that's where your mind starts going when these guys do stuff like this at the highest level. So Brunson has entered a world in which he's going to be talked about forever. And that is a really cool place to be. Those guys you mentioned, Isaiah Thomas, Dumars, JoJo White, like JoJo White is remembered because of what he did at the highest level.
Yeah.
And getting a finals MVP. Like that's, I don't know if like the general fan of the NBA would know who JoJo White is without that. And that's like a huge, huge, huge deal. Chauncey Billups for sure in 2004, getting finals MVP and kind of leading that ragtag Detroit, you know, Bad Boys 2.0 team. That was a huge deal for his career. And Brunson has now, no matter what happens for the next however long he plays, he's just about to be 30 in August. No matter what happens, he has solidified himself in history. Whether he becomes one of the all-time greats or doesn't have, you know, another playoff run like he did this one, he still cemented himself in history. And it's really cool to witness. And I'm always grateful to witness history.
Dude, and you're painting it perfectly, honestly. Like you talk, I'll go back to the whole team factor first here when you talked about everyone felt like they had something to prove. I want to go back to like Anunoby at least had won one with Toronto, but he wasn't even playing on that team because he was hurt. And so he's like, well, I don't
Correct.
get the credit probably I deserve, and I need to go win one for myself. Mikhail had 2021 when the Suns lost to the Bucks, and he's like, I need to go make it back here and go win a title too. And Kat, you've brought up just the many things that happened in Minnesota, the conference finals appearance and losing as well. It felt like to Dallas, that was just like a moment. It felt like Minnesota had a shot. And it just feels like there was opportunities for Kat to before this year just to be like, hey, I'm okay being a tertiary role. But this year you saw him go crazy, be the second guy, and it was very special. And I enjoyed what Kat did, especially in those first two games. And I know you probably didn't as much as the Spurs fan, but just what he was doing against Wemby was pretty special as well. But no, I agree with you. And then yeah, Brunson has memorialized himself with what he did in this finals, and I think it also helps when you play in the big market that you do in New York, that you're gonna get
Mm-hmm.
memorialized in that sense, and it's special. And he is now a part of that short list of guys who is a smaller guard who could lead a team to a title, who has led a team to a title. One thing, and now I want to ask you though, is thinking back, especially since we've been like fans, because we're around the same age, but like, what
Mm-hmm.
other shorter guards or like guards do you wish had the opportunity to lead a team to a title? Because the first one I think of is Nash, and then, but
Mm-hmm.
I am curious what your if you had like any other like yeah on that sense like a guard who was definitely the best player on a team but like is like on a shorter stature side of things that you wish would have led a team to a title.
Yeah, Nash is certainly the first guy that comes to my head. He's. I don't think you can count Jason Kidd because he's like 6'4", 6'5". It feels like on a good day. Um, and he won one in 11, obviously as a lesser role than he did in his heyday. But Nash to me is one of the ultimate. I like thinking about him on that level of like, man, I really wish those Suns teams would have got not just a title, but like a shot, like would have made the finals and challenged whoever came out of the East because they probably could have beat some of those teams in the 2000s. Um, but he's also one of the reasons I love basketball is because it is a team sport and because it is a circumstantial sport and has a lot to do with circumstance, health, togetherness, fit, like all these things and contracts. It's such a fascinating league in that regard. And Nash, I mean, was so good and probably should have in some games in the playoffs especially shot more and taken more opportunities as the offensive like dynamic player he was because there's times where he does kind of take over and you're like, oh, this guy can really score. He can shoot, he can drive, he can kick, obviously. But there's games where he's trying to keep everyone involved and play the right way, where it was like, oh, maybe you should take 25 shots, and he didn't do that. And so maybe that's a knock on him, but I also think like he played the game the right way, and it just didn't happen for him. Think about, I mean, Chris Paul is in that camp too,
Yeah.
where I think the world of Chris Paul. Chris Paul is one of my favorite point guards of all time, and I think he's has to be in the conversation for best kind of overall facilitating point guards to ever live, and did it for so long, but only got to the finals once, and it was later in his career, and so those things kind of prove to me like it is a team game. Things have to go your way. You have to have a little bit of luck, and you have to have sometimes. What Brunson shows is like kind of a unconscious, like, I'm going to keep shooting. I don't care if I shot poorly in game 1 and 2. I'm going to keep shooting. I'm going to keep finding my spots. And there are some point guards like Paul and Nash who maybe didn't have that, like that badge, like in 2K, like they don't quite have that like unconscious, I'm just going to do this because my team might need it right now. And I don't know, maybe that's a knock on them, or it's just another reason to respect Brunson. It's okay to be different, and those guys are certainly much different than because we're kind of naming like facilitating pass first point guards
Yeah.
who averaged double digit assists and didn't care if they only averaged 14 or 15 points per game. They were all about facilitating, defending, running. Like, let's keep things rotating. But yeah, Nash, like you, Nash is the first guy that comes to mind where I wish he would have at least got a chance to perform with the finals patch on his jersey. That never happened. It's sad.
Yeah. And Paul is the only other one I thought of, especially since we've been fans. Like Nash and Paul are the only like two smaller guards that you're like, these would have been the guys you would like to see have that opportunity. So I definitely agree with you there. But speaking of just like, you brought up the Pacers and just them beating the Knicks last year. We've talked about just the variety of teams that have had chances just during the 2020s. But that's one of the things I wanted to talk about too, is just I feel like we've been, when I talked about it last week, just the amount of parity we've had in the NBA, just with the titles. And I personally love it. And I wanted to talk because the 2020s, we have had more different teams be contenders or classified as contenders this decade in the 2020s, and it feels like we've had in NBA history. It feels like it's been a variety of teams, probably since the 70s when we had a lot of different teams win titles or be in the finals then too. But it's like we haven't had this much variety, this much parity, in who is even considered a quote unquote contender. And that's what makes it great. It feels like we have a similar like few teams in it every year. It's like the Celtics, the Thunder more recently have been classified as a contender. And then the Nuggets basically since Jokic and we had like the Bucks at the beginning of the decade. They were always considered a contender until past few years. And so what does that say to you about one, the depth of talent we have in the NBA, but two, what does that say to you about just like the fact that we're in this league now where we have just so much variety in what's classified as a contender each year?
Yeah, I think if you're an NBA fan and a general basketball fan, this is amazing. I mean, not only are there every season you're like, okay, well this team could win it. Here's the case. It's also like the proof is in the pudding. Like it's there. Like the finals. Not only have we had a different champion every year since 2019, but we've also had different finals matchups. It's like these teams are just beating the shit out of each other during the first three rounds of the playoffs, like not allowing one another to get there again. And that to me is like so special. Like, the Mavericks against your Celtics.
Yeah.
And you would have thought, okay, like they'll probably get back in the next couple of years, and they trade Luka. It's like the Nuggets. If you would have told me the Nuggets are not going to make the finals again from 24, 25, 26, I'd be like, you're crazy. There's no way the Nuggets don't at least make a finals within those next 3 seasons, and they haven't. And honestly, haven't really got that close.
No.
They really have. They've been like, oh man, they got to Game 7 of the conference finals and barely lost. Like that's not what has happened to them. The Miami Heat in 20 and 23, like that's so random. The Warriors won in 2022 and now look completely different because of age and roster building and everything, and just injuries. And it's like they had to win that one. They're like, if we're gonna get another one, it has to be now. In 2021, if you would have told me Giannis is never going to make a finals since 2021, I would have said you're insane. I would have been like, there's no way that a Giannis-led Bucks team will not make the finals within the next 5 years. So that, like, the proof is it's just there. It's not even like a thought exercise. It's all right in front of you if you just look at the finals matchups. And so it makes me wonder, are the Knicks and Spurs even going to be in the finals next year? Is it going to be totally new teams? Are the Knicks going to roar back and defend their title? Are the Celtics going to make some moves to be like, no, we're back. We're the best team in the East? Is Detroit going to do something? Are the Spurs going to be able to handle another crazy, rigorous season where now the target is on their back every single game? The same way the target is on the Thunder's back and has been for 2 years. I wonder if this is the age of parity and the age of, it is so hard to go back to back and not only win back to back, but to even go to the finals back to back. And that excites me as just an NBA fan, because you're wondering now, all right, in 2027, what are we going to be looking at? Like, it could be something totally new that we had no idea was going to happen, and that's so cool. So I'm loving this decade. I think it's been so fun. The quality of hoops, the quality of depth is insane right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, the fact that the Heat and the Celtics are the only two teams that have had multiple appearances in the decade is one random, because you talk about just like the Heat being that one random team who's made it twice. That should never have happened, by the way. But also just the fact that I think back to 21. I think back to that Suns team. Everyone thought the Suns were going to come back the next year, be the team that would make the finals, and then lose in the second round to the Mavericks, and what was just horrific fashion. And then the Warriors end up making that chance and taking the title in 22. In 23, it feels like the Nuggets are by themselves and they have the Lakers like come fight with them a little bit, but it just felt like the Nuggets. And in the East, it was the Celtics won to lose, and then also the Knicks and the Cavs and the Bucks were supposed to be great, and none of them made it because the Heat are like, hey, I will take this back real quick as the 8th seed. It just feels like there is the talent level has risen so much that you can't predict as easily anymore. And I think that's what makes it so great too, is like we have to widen the scope of what's a contender now, let alone who can even make the finals now, because of how good the depth of talent we have in the NBA. Because we have guys like on the Spurs, we have guys like Keldon Johnson who won 6th Man of the Year, and he had some good playoff series and some where you're like, okay, what are you doing out there? But then you also then have Dylan Harper, who's had the best rookie guard performance we've had since Magic Johnson. So, I mean, we're having just this depth of like what can even happen between some of these guys is spectacular. And that's what makes me excited about it a lot too, is just that we're having this great, I won't even call it a crisis, but a great example of how good this level of talent can be. I know people I have gotten discussions with people that the top end talent might not be as good as certain other decades, and that's fine. But what I'll say is the fact that we've had it's the amount of great players or good players we have in the NBA compared to other decades is just, it can't be quantified, because I think we have this decade is such a large number of those good players that could be playing or starting on other teams.
Yeah, I definitely think it is hard to compare. If you're talking about just 10 years ago when it was like LeBron, Durant, Curry, these absolute all-time players kind of at the top. But I think these guys, these top end players now deserve a ton of credit, because for like Brunson, SGA, Jokic, these guys, the level of like shot making is crazy right now. Like some of the stuff these guys are capable of doing wasn't really even happening 10, 15 years ago. Some of this stuff they just try to pull off is really remarkable to watch. And then yeah, I think the big one that could be argued all day, the top end talent, but there's no question that the like 4 through 8 on these good playoff teams, it's the best it's ever been. I mean, some of the options. I mean, Dylan Harper is probably the prime example of Fox and Castle start as the guards, but Harper is this absolute monster off the bench and shows zero fear and attacks defenses relentlessly. And he's a rookie who comes off the bench. Like, that's like you said, that's historic. Like, you have to look back at a guy like a Magic Johnson or Manu Ginobili, these Hall of Famers, to kind of look back and like, man, how good were these guys in their first playoff run, their first couple of years. And then yeah, sometimes I look at like guys on like your Celtics. One of my favorite bench guys is Peyton Pritchard. The level of skill he has, what he's able to do with the ball, how good he is at shooting, how efficient he is. All this stuff is like, man, this guy is unbelievably talented, and he is not starting. And whatever, 20 years ago, he'd be the starting point guard on most teams. He's that skilled, that talented, that good at shooting and handling the ball. And there are so many guys throughout the league on playoff teams or play-in teams that are oozing with talent. And it makes free agency really fun. It makes trade possibilities really fun. It makes team building. Who do you pay? Who do you let go? All those decisions become magnified because those are if you get your main guys, that's great, and you get your core. But it seems like now it's like you kind of have to have the right supporting cast to win the actual title. And right. I think we saw that with the Knicks. Like, they took the swings that were necessary. They took a chance on Jose Alvarado. They took a chance on Jordan Clarkson. They stuck with Mitchell Robinson off the bench. Like, those things matter so much now, guys. 4 or 5 through 8 in your rotation, and figuring those players out is so fun to me. It's like one of my favorite things to do is kind of look at, okay, who, like for the Thunder, they have like some serious business decisions to make this offseason. And it's like, who are going to be those rotation guys next year if Dort leaves, if they don't want to give Hartenstein the money, if they don't want to do this, who becomes those rotation players? Because those players are more important than ever because you're playing them. These coaches actually are playing them, unlike in the past.
Yeah, I agree. And let's just do this now because I'm now genuinely curious because the offseason is here and the draft is next Tuesday, which is crazy to me. I feel like this is so much quicker than it usually is. But it's ridiculous. But what I was going to ask, what is your favorite or what offseason team are you most looking forward to seeing? One, make moves to sign guys, or two, make moves to trade for guys. Or trade away guys, whichever way you want to go about it. Not your Spurs, but I'm just genuinely curious. If it is the Thunder, that's also a great option.
Yeah, I think the Thunder are the most interesting because it's like, look, they won the title. They went to Game 7 with a crazy talented Spurs team and didn't have J-Dub or AJ Mitchell. They're definitely fascinating, and they're going to be fascinating for the next 10 years because of all the picks and everything they have, all the assets. But I think Detroit is the team I'm most curious about because I really like what they did. Obviously, they had a great regular season. They got a lot out of Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. But Jalen Duren doesn't have the kind of playoffs you want him to have as a Pistons fan or as just an NBA fan, because I love Jalen Duren. And watching him play live is like, dude, this guy is an animal. He's so talented and so strong. They have to re-sign him. They have to pay him. I think it would be catastrophic if they were like, no, we're good, you can go to the Lakers or whatever. I think that would be one of the dumbest decisions of the offseason. And I realize a lot of people will just be like, well, just look what he did in the playoffs. I understand that, and he was not what he was supposed to be in the playoffs. It was his first go around. He's like 22 years old. My main thing is he's all NBA. And if you don't re-sign him and don't pay him a huge sum of money, it sends a horrible message to the rest of the league that, hey, if you have an all-NBA season with us, we might not even give you your payday. Like, betraying the trust it puts the rest of the league on notice. It's already hard to sign guys in Detroit as free agents. Imagine if they don't give Duren the money and they let him walk to the Lakers and Luka and him have like a dream pick and roll duo. And now he's like, oh, he's all NBA again. Like, what are we doing? You have to sign him. And then after that, they're still going to have, because Tobias Harris is off the books. It's like, what do we do with him? And there's a couple other guys that are an interesting, team options or player options, and we'll see what they do. But they're going to have money to work with. Even if they do give Jalen Duren the max, and they should, they're still going to have room to play with and figure some stuff out. And they were the 1 seed. So they're, to me, I'm most curious about them. What are they going to do? What kind of leap does Cade make? If they give Duren the trust that he deserves, I think, as a player, what kind of leap does he make, and who do they put around them? Do they get more shooting, which is obviously what they need as just a basketball team collectively, without taking away from their kind of defensive identity? I'm so curious about what they do. I was very impressed with them We got to see them live in Chicago when we came there, and then Adam and I saw them again in Detroit against the Spurs. And I love their team. I love the way they play. I think they're super interesting and super um, unique for the modern era. So I cannot wait to see what they do. But I would say Durant is your first. That's the first thing you got to check off this offseason.
Yeah, I think the Pistons are a great call. They were probably my Eastern Conference pick, them or the
Mm.
Pacers, because I am genuinely curious what the
Mm.
Pacers do as they prepare for Halliburton to return. Um, and I just am very curious to see how they build that depth back up. The team I'm most
Mm-hmm.
curious about is the Houston Rockets because I'm very
Ooh.
curious to see what they do with KD if they keep him. I'm very curious to see how they bring a guard into the system if they just want to keep with Fred VanVleet and just run that track back. But I'm also just genuinely curious with this depth of young talent that they have. It felt like they had again, which they felt like they had last year too, just too many guys and it's too many mouths to feed and trying to like work too many guys in. I'm very curious what they end up doing with all these different pieces when if they bring in a real point guard or honestly I'm just mostly curious what they end up doing with Durant and if they with the controversy with the whole uh, Twitter account and everything. I wonder if they keep him around. So that's my thing. Also the Ime situation and my guy Ben Sullivan needing to get his shit together on getting this offense back together. I think that's just gonna also be a big thing too.
Yeah, great call on Houston. They are they're like a reality TV show.
Yeah,
Everything about them is endlessly entertaining. So, I'm very
yeah,
curious too. I'm like much higher on. I'm much higher on than I feel like my circles of basketball fans on Amen Thompson and Shingun. I think they still have plenty of growing to do and plenty of their ceiling is still pretty high. KD, yeah, that's gonna be interesting. You know, yeah, he clearly threw the team off. It's
yeah,
obvious. Even if all that stuff is fake, it threw the team off. And Udoka, all of it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite reality TV shows. Watching them play the Lakers in the first round was like this cannot be a playoff matchup like without Luca, and KD didn't play all the games, and it was just like these two weird teams. Austin Reeves didn't play all the games. They were hilarious to watch. Like night in, night out, I was like, oh man, here we go. Lakers Rockets train wreck. So but there's so much room to grow for both teams, and improve. So we'll see. Yeah, Houston's a great call.
yeah. I think the fact that Luke Kennard was lighting you up in round one should be a red flag in Houston.
Yeah.
So I think that should be red flag number one. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with Detroit because they just need a secondary scorer to be alongside Cade. It can't be just a lot of him trying to create shots at the end of games. You could see that was exhaustion kicking in, like especially in that second round series against Cleveland. So I think if they can get a wing of some sort, man, I really think he wouldn't fit the defensive structure. But if Porter Jr. ended up in Detroit, I would think that'd be spectacular for them. And just being another scoring
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah, for sure. And playing alongside a guy who's as composed as Cade. Yeah, I forgot to mention Kevin Herter comes off the books as well, and he makes like 18 million.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean him and Tobias alone make more than $40 million this past season. They're totally off the books, so they can either try to re-sign Tobias, or they can wipe their hands clean and say, "Hey, we're moving on. We're going to pick up the team options." Which there's some, you know, um, Isaiah Stewart, Karis LeVert, those guys are on player options, and then team options would be Oscar Thompson. Obviously, they're going to do that. Ron Holland, I would think at that price they would do that. Dennis Jenkins proved that he's a good backup point guard. Paul Reed, yeah. There's options, and that's my favorite thing is when there's options to do different things. You're not kind of like, okay, this is our team for next year. Like this is what we're doing. All we can do is draft and maybe make a move on the fringes. The Pistons could look a lot different than they did this year, and that's exciting.
Absolutely agree. One final thing that I want to wrap up with you, Austin, in putting on our historical hats here real quick. Finals just ended, sure, but we are about to kick off later in July. Adam and I are going to start kicking off our Anatomy of a Superstar series, which you are going to be a part of a few different times for different players, which we're super stoked about. But thinking about historically, we've had a bunch of phenomenal finals, and I wanted to ask you, as these finals have ended, what's a finals that every fan of the Hooper's Almanac or the Johnson Magic should go back and rewatch? Just because I think this is a great time to do it with it's on the mind, but I'm very curious very curious what your thought process is of what's a great finals that people should go back and rewatch.
Yeah, so I think there's different answers to different levels of NBA fans.
Yeah.
There's the people who like, hey, I'm just now getting into the league the past few years. Like, what should I go? Should I go back and watch something recent? And you could say, oh, watch 2016 or watch 2013. Where it goes the full distance to Game 7. You could say that. In the 2000s, there's plenty of options that are not only like, they're not like, oh, this is like the greatest basketball, but they're such interesting time capsules during the 2000s. Of course, your '08 Celtics against the Lakers. That is such an interesting series because of how different the game looks, not even 20 years later, and how many Hall of Famers are on the floor at the same time. But like an older one, I myself am past due for like one of my favorite classics. I'm past due for 1986 Celtics Rockets. I haven't watched that finals in a few years, and that's not a Spurs team. That the 86 Celtics are my favorite team of all time that are not a Spurs team, because of the cohesion, the talent, and just the togetherness of like, I don't think it mattered who came out of the West. I think the Celtics were going to win no matter what. It felt like they reached kind of an apex of team basketball and understanding the hierarchy, and everyone had a task and a duty, and they played so hard on defense. So that's something I would throw out there. That's not Lakers Celtics from the 80s, but it's still got that classic look to it. You got the young Rockets, young Hakeem, looks like an absolute athletic monster during that series. So that's one of my favorite kind of, I think at this point, underrated, and it hit its 40-year anniversary this year.
That's a great call. 40-year anniversary of that series. I like that. Man, I think if I'm sticking with the 80s, and if I think you're right. There's different ways to think about it. If you're a newbie to like the sport, or if you're just trying to learn a lot about the history. If you're learning about the history of the sport, go back and watch 87, and I would cry, but you got to watch Magic versus Bird, and unfortunately probably watch one that Magic wins. Yeah. But that's one of the best ones there is. My go-to that's non-Celtics Lakers or non-Jordan is the 80 or the 95 finals with Magic Rockets. I love that one with all my heart. I don't know why. It's a 4-game sweep, but it's one of my favorites. I think that's the one I've rewatched the most. That's not a Jordan finals. And then I would, but my overall one that I would say, if you're going to go back and rewatch your finals this year, go back and watch 2011. Go back and watch what it looks like to go see a team with, which you mentioned earlier, a team that knew the secret, and like a vet team that like, hey, we've been around a long time. We know, like, a lot of these players have been around for a while. We know what it takes to play as a team, and to have a guy like Dirk go crazy. I think that's the one that people should go back and watch this offseason and say, this is, I almost want to compare it to this Knicks team in the sense of, hey, we had one guy we could trust no matter what down the stretch. We had a bunch of different role players who had never won it and had a lot to prove. It's that sense of, hey, we have a lot to prove ourselves, but let's go do it as a team and ride this guy's ride this guy's scoring in the clutch whenever we need it. And that's where I would also want to tie it back to is like it's a slightly longer series, but it's still a great series. Plus, if you are a LeBron hater for some reason and you want to watch him get stuffed by JJ Barea, then that's also a good cause too.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it? Game 4, he has like 8 points. Yeah. I mean, you can, yeah, revel in that for sure. Yeah, that is a great call. Also, it's 15 years ago, which is so weird
Yeah.
to think about. How much has changed. But you're right. I always, when people kind of do the thing, I really don't like this, and it happens with the 04 Pistons Lakers one, where it's just like, oh, Shaq and Kobe failed. It's like, no. The Pistons succeeded.
Yeah.
The Pistons figured something out together throughout that playoffs, and they figured something out collectively on defense. And then people were like, oh, LeBron failed. Dwayne Wade failed, which Dwayne Wade had a great series in 11. But
yeah.
Collectively, the Mavs are just better. They're just a better overall team. I mean, going down to Deshaun Stevenson and Jason Terry, JJ Barea, you mentioned, just like understanding their task and what they have to do to win. All revolving around the giant German. It's a beautiful, beautiful series. As a neutral, I was like, it was great as a neutral because, like, look, LeBron's gonna probably win one here pretty soon. Wade's already won one. I love Chris Bosh. We'll see if they stay together. But it was like Dirk and Kidd have a ring. That is awesome, and you can shut a lot of haters up and a lot of ring culture up if you just get one. If you just get that one ring. KG, Paul Pierce, when they won in 08 and Ray Allen, it was like, oh, like, get that monkey off your back. Like, finally, like, we can just say, I have this too. I have everything else I've done, all NBAs, all stars, scoring in bunches, do everything on the court, pour my blood, sweat, and tears out. But getting that ring is such a huge deal for your legacy. So for Dirk to get one, I was like, that's pretty sick. Like, I'm really glad he has one. Is there a player right now that's obviously not a Celtic because your guys have one? Is there a player that you want to get a ring at some point in the near future?
Man, I would love if Ant's young enough that he's got some time for him to win one. But that's the other thing about this decade is we've got a lot of guys who have got their opportunity, especially a lot of MVPs who have finally got their titles. Jokic, Giannis. The only one who hasn't is Embiid, and I'm fine if Philly never wins a title again. That would be fine with me if they never win one.
Yeah.
But I'll say that the player I would like to see, I think the organization that I think deserves to win a title, man, I would love it if Paul George went somewhere that wasn't Philly and he could win one. But to win as as the fourth guy on a team, because he's past the Jason Kidd on the Mavericks portion of his career. He's not Jason Kidd on the Knicks, but he's edging that way. Paul George was a guy, I loved him in Indiana. And then I liked when he had the MVP case, when he was that 1 year in OKC, I thought that was awesome. But man, Paul George to win one would be great. And then I'm trying to think, Portland needs to win one, for the love of God. And so it might be the fact that Dame could possibly win one back in Portland would be great. If Dame could win one back in Portland, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that was my pick for sure. Is if Dame comes back totally healthy and is still able to provide an offensive firepower, and the Blazers take some chances, who's going to be their coach?
Great question. That's the other issue, is the fact that they have a shitty owner.
Yeah, I truly wonder who would fit there, because they have a good defensive tough identity in place.
Right. Tibbs?
But they don't yet. Yeah, honestly, I thought about Tibbs. Do they have the 8 guys that Tibbs could run through the floor to get to the promised land?
Yes, yeah. Outside of Holiday and Dame, I think they do have the 8 guys. I think Holiday would have to sit out every other game, and then You do have like Scoot and honestly, I think Kamara and I think Donovan Clingan would run through the floor to win a title or just to play for tips.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree that those guys, especially Scoot, I don't think that guy has an off button. Like he's ready to roll, and I really like watching him play. And I thought in the playoffs, specifically Game 2, I was like, this guy is good. Like he can really play, and he has all the confidence in the world moving forward. He what?
He has moments. He has moments when he looks great.
Yeah. And then nights where he like is not a factor at all offensively. So yeah, plenty of growing to do. Yeah, that'd be kind of an interesting Tibbs 8-man team where it's like, hey, we're just doing this. We're gonna play everybody a ton. Like you mentioned Klingon, Scoot, like get ready to play 40 minutes every night. Like,
yeah,
that would be fascinating. I agree. I've always really been drawn to Portland from watching those Rip City, the Clyde, Terry Porter, Buck Williams, like I Duckworth. I really liked those teams, and then I loved Brandon Roy as a kid. Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, obviously Dame, C.J. McCollum. I was like huge on like Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu. Like I really like these guys. I really want them to do well. I always rooted for them if they weren't playing the Spurs. So yeah, I would love for Portland to kind of like take the next step. They got the 7th seed this year, and they've really played the Spurs really, really tough in stretches and took big leads at points where it was like, oh man, they're pretty overwhelming on defense at times. So yeah, take a couple swings in the offseason, hire a coach that is going to really get the most out of everybody. I would love for them to make a run next year.
You and me both, my friend. I appreciate you joining me tonight. It means a lot. And we will be seeing a lot of you this summer for Anatomy of a Superstar. Why don't you tell people where they can listen to you or find your stuff?
Yeah, we've got Johnson Magic. The pod has been on hold a little bit because our main kind of producer editor, he just got married. So
yeah.
We'll hit the ground. We'll hit the ground running here during the off season, which is where we're gonna shine the most. I think is doing off season work on Johnson Magic, which is available wherever you listen to podcasts, and then the Anatomy of a Superstar, kind of doing those in tandem. Me, you, Adam, other people. I know Carl's gonna jump on some of those. Like we have some really cool stuff lined up for the off season. And then we do, at Johnson Magic on TikTok and Instagram. I'm always just posting random stuff on there. Adam went to Argentina versus Algeria, so we put a video up of that. He went and saw USA versus Australia in Seattle, so we'll do a video of that. And he's going to another match,
Egypt
in Vancouver, I believe. Yeah, Egypt and
I can't remember.
Who do they play? I cannot remember. Their group is. They played Belgium already, so it's not them. I can't remember who the matchup is, but yeah, he's so excited. I was with him when he decided to get the Argentina tickets, and it was so funny because he like looked at me like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Look, man, I cannot do it. I cannot afford these tickets. It's totally bummed me out not being able to kind of be a part of it. I just cannot afford how pricey the tickets are." And he was like, "Do I do it?" And I'm like, well, "Yeah, it's Lionel Messi at his last World Cup. It's Argentina. It should be a good game." And so he drove we were in Dallas to do some stuff and visit our younger brother. He drove to Kansas City, watched the match, and drove straight back and got back to Dallas at like 6 or 7 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Woke up at like 11 a.m. He woke up at 11 a.m., started watching Portugal versus Congo with me on TV because that game was in Houston. And then we left and went to the stadium where in Dallas where England and Croatia are playing. And we were just trying to go see if we could like scalp tickets outside the stadium. It almost worked, but we weren't quite able to get in. So we watched the game at a restaurant, and that was awesome. England looked great. But yeah, Adam is just like, this is the kind of stuff he lives for, is, these huge events where the the top athletes in the world are playing. So he's having a good time now. I'm sure once he once the World Cup, like the matches he's going to are over and he gets back to San Antonio, he's going to be ready to jump straight into Anatomy of a Superstar and doing random off-season content with me on Johnson Magic. So yeah, we're so excited from June, July, August, pretty much till October. We're going to be doing really cool stuff on the Hooper's Almanac feed and the Johnson Magic feed. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be a blast. But the basketball never ends with us, honestly, and which is going to be exciting this offseason.
No.
Yeah.
Basketball
but
never
seriously,
stops.
Thanks so much for joining me tonight. No, it never does. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I do appreciate it, my man, and we will definitely have you on a lot this summer. Go follow him on Johnson Magic on all sites, and like you said, they're up on all streaming services. If you want to go back and watch listen to old episodes, go Spurs, go Celtics. Everyone have a great rest of your week, y'all.